What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my latest video. This is part of a series where I focus on a specific director and rank that director's work from worst to best. Done such directors in the past such as Spike Lee, Spike Jonze, Wes Anderson, David Fincher, and many more directors. You guys can check out those directors as well as many more directors in my director playlist down below. But guys, you clicked on this video, so you know at this time around I'm focusing on Alex Garland's films and ranking them from worst to best. Now, as always, this will not include any video games, music videos, TV shows, short films that the director has done, just specifically feature-length films that he has directed. And in Alex Garland's case, I know that he was and still is a writer. This will not include any of his written work, such as like 28 Days Later or Sunshine or Dread. I know some people will say on the record, well, actually, technically he directed Dread because Carl Urban has gone on record, the lead actor of Dread, he's gone on record saying that technically, Alex Garland did direct Dread, but here's the thing. When you look at the end credits of Dread, as well as when you look it up on IMDb, it doesn't say it's directed by Alex Garland. So because of that, I'm not including Dread with this list. So as of filming this video, which is April 2024, I'll be ranking his 4 films that he's directed, and then ranking them from 4 being his worst to 1 being his best, and of course, my humble opinion. And I will also be looking forward to seeing your ranking in the comment section down below. But guys, enough exposition. Let's get started. So kicking things off, my number 4, we have Civil War. This is his latest entry in his filmography, and he said that this is actually going to be his final film that he's directing, although I have heard conflicting reports that apparently he is also co-directing another film, so maybe he just meant solely directing, that this will be his last entry. But anyways, Civil War is a movie I was greatly looking forward to. It was actually one of my most anticipated films of 2024. And I have to say, the end result is something that seems like a missed opportunity. Whilst I appreciate the fact that it was a apolitical movie, which means that it can bring in many, many audience members, I think that because of just how bare bones this movie feels thematically, as well as character-wise, which is just kind of baffling because I feel like Alex Garland usually has such a very interesting grasp on terms of character development and just really developing them in a fascinating way. This movie just seems like it doesn't have that, unfortunately. I found this movie to be quite like a kind of experience, but who knows, maybe down the line I'll rewatch it. But I just, as of the filming this video, I really don't have an urge to rewatch this movie. It left kind of a bitter taste in my mouth, but you know, I can see why some people might like this movie as well as have this higher up on their list. But for me, it's my number 4. But yeah, that's my number 4, guys. Next up, my number 3, we have Men. So Men is a film that I saw in theaters, and I really liked it. And then I've seen it twice on Blu-ray, and I've been having it itching to rewatch it for a 4th time. I personally really liked Men. I think that it is a great example of visual storytelling. And there's like a 15-minute scene towards the end where there is no dialogue whatsoever. And I don't know, I really appreciate the fact that Alex Garland, someone that was first and foremost a writer turned director, I just really appreciate the fact that he had an entire sequence like that was focused not on the dialogue, which you would think that someone that is a writer first would be like, okay, I need to add all this dialogue. No, he's like, no, I'm going to let the visuals tell the work. Like, that's more of like a director thinking. And I really appreciate that. I think he did a really good job directing this film. I liked how, it's funny because I feel like my praises as well as my critiques of Civil War can be reversed. Like, some people will feel the way I felt about Civil War and implement that on Men versus the positives of Men they'll implement on Civil War. But anyways, I personally just think that Men works really well. I like how it is a horror art house film with a lot to say. I got personally a lot from this film thematically. I also like the fact that it's only 100 minutes and it flies by. Like, I feel like each viewing, the pacing gets better and better. Just truly a really well-made film, and I'm glad that I own it on Blu-ray. And like I said, I'm already fixing to rewatch it for a 4th time. I like the movie Men. That's why it is my number 3. Next up, my number 2, we have Annihilation. So Annihilation is a sophomore film, and I just want to say right off the bat, I think that it's funny how when I bought this on 4K, it said only Best Buy exclusive 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray. And for the longest time, it was just sold at Best Buy, but I recently checked, and it's like, oh, you can actually buy this on Amazon. So I just think it's funny that it's no longer an exclusive from Best Buy. But anyways, the film itself, I love Annihilation. I think Annihilation is just very fascinating. It's got really interesting character work. I love how the five main characters all represent a form of the 5 stages of grief. It's very fascinating on that front. But then not only that, the filmmaking is incredible. Whilst Men is a horror art house film, Annihilation is a sci-fi horror film. There is some truly horrific scenes that you'll never forget, but then the sci-fi elements are just really, really cerebral. Specifically, the last like 10 minutes of the film, it's really, really good. Now, with all the positives I have, which again, if you've seen me on Letterboxd talk about this film, I have a lot to say about this film positively. The one thing that keeps it back from being a full-on masterpiece in my eyes is that the film tells you right away how these characters, how do I put this? Their arcs, if you will. Like, you know what happens to them, you just don't know how it happens to them, if you will. So that is the one thing that's like a saving grace about the film, but I just personally wish that we figured out things at the same time as the lead character. One could argue that the lead character does find out what happens to the other characters at the same time, but it's technically not really. Again, I'm trying not to spoil anything. I'm trying to be vague here, but it's just the structure of the film did leave a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth in terms of being ahead of the film, and that's something I never liked. But sometimes it can work. Here, it's something that does take away a little bit, but overall, it's a great film. I do think Annihilation is fantastic. It's one of the best films of 2018, and I highly recommend it. But yeah, Annihilation, that's my number 2. Next up, my number 1, this was his debut film, which is crazy to think about, but my number 1 is Ex Machina. This is a masterpiece. It's one of the best films of the 2010s, one of the best sci-fi films, one of my favorite films of all time. It's just an overall film that just keeps on giving. I've seen it, I would say at this point, probably a dozen times. I will never forget when I first saw this film in theaters back in 2015. And it's cool because I recently got to see it again in theaters, this time in IMAX, because A24 announced this year that they were going to be having their 3 biggest films to be in IMAX, which is, of course, Ex Machina, Hereditary, and Uncut Gems. So very happy that I got to see this on the big screen again. But this is a film that, if you haven't done so already, I highly recommend picking up on 4K. It's a great looking film, sounds great, it's very well acted. It's got thought-provoking themes, really strong storytelling, and an ending that I personally loved. Just an overall masterpiece of a film, and that's why Ex Machina is my number 1. But yeah, guys, that's my ranking of Alex Garland's films. I will say right off the bat, I like Alex Garland as a director. I know that he recently announced that he will be retiring from directing, so I don't know if that's actually going to stick. But if it doesn't stick and he keeps making films and directs them, I'm very much so going to be looking forward to them. I already can say that he's a director I will miss because he just always seems like he has a lot on his mind. He has very interesting premises. He has, actors that he consistently works with. He just knows what he's doing behind the camera. And he's just overall a really well-rounded director and writer at the same time. I know I didn't include his written work, but Sunshine I would recommend, as well as 28 Days Later. Both of those films are really well written. But that's my ranking for Alex Garland's films that he's directed. Let me know your ranking of his work down below. And as always, guys, don't forget the subscription, notification bell, follow me on Letterboxd, and I will catch you guys later.